All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, ending a 31-year playoff drought and playoff victory drought, rather, check. Winning their first road playoff game in franchise history today. The Cincinnati Bengals are simply rolling right now, and they are heading to the AFC Championship game for the first time since 1988. Now, the Bengals got past the Tennessee Titans today by the score of 19-16 in Nashville, and they did it with their defense, their ever improving young quarterback, and a rookie kicker that has ice water in his veins. Now, quarterback Joe Burrow was 28 of 37 passing today for 348 yards. Didn't throw a touchdown pass, and he did have a pick. But we saw Burrow's calm, cool, and collectedness in the pocket as he was never phased. And that's important because Burrow was sacked 9 times today by the Titans defense. And you never saw him complain. You never saw him get frustrated. You never saw him yelling at his offensive line on the sidelines. He basically just got back up and just went out there and kept doing what he had to do. Evan McPherson, the rookie kicker for the Bengals, 4 field goals. Big one before the first half ended, a 54-yarder, and then the 52-yarder, which won the game as time expired for the Bengals. This Bengals defense forced 3 interceptions of Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill. And on the flip side of that, today was just another illustration that Tannehill is not the guy. I mean, 3 interceptions, one on the very first play of the game, and the defense of the Titans bailed them out as they were able to hold Cincinnati to a field goal. But nonetheless, the first play of the game, right off of a play action pass, and we see Tannehill forcing the ball. You can't have that, especially in a win or go home scenario like it is right now in the playoffs. We also saw Tannehill throw an interception in the red zone. You can't do that because at that point, you have at least 3 points in your pocket to work with. And, on the Titans' final drive of the game, once again, Tannehill forced the ball in there. It was tipped in the air, and it was intercepted by Cincinnati. And then, of course, they were able to make a couple of plays and to get into field goal range and get the walk-off victory. And now they're going to the AFC Championship game. Not understanding scenarios in regards to Ryan Tannehill, I can't harp on this enough. He was 15 to 24 passing today for 220 with a touchdown throw, and of course, those 3 costly interceptions. The Ryan Tannehill story was good a couple of years ago when in 2019, he came in and replaced Marcus Mariota. The Titans offense, rallied around him. And then from there, Tennessee was able to get on a run and get to the AFC Championship game. But you look at it in regards to last season, the Titans won the AFC South, but they were one and done as they lost at home to the Baltimore Ravens. You look at the Tennessee Titans this year, they finished with the best record in the AFC, had home field advantage throughout. We're the only team, of course, in the AFC to get the first round bye now. And, they were expected, hey, you know what? We're going to get fresh. We're going to get, more bodies back for this team. And we're going to be able to make a Super Bowl run. And of course, that was not the case. You look at running back Derrick Henry for the Titans, he looked rusty. You could see that he just simply didn't have that explosiveness like he did earlier in the season. And I think a lot of that is just the fact that he hasn't had to game work since he's missed half of the season with a foot injury. And, because of that, I mean, Henry did have 62 yards on 20 carries, but he never had the explosiveness. We saw Deonta Foreman come in and have 66 yards on 4 carries in the second half. And I think that Titans head coach Mike Vrabel made the mistake in going away from Foreman. At that point, you know what? You got to ride the hot hand. And at the same time, you know what? With Henry, You have to say, hey, you know what? You're our big dog, but at the end of the day, we're trying to win a game here. It's the best person who's going to give us the best opportunity to go out there and win this football game and advance. That would have been Foreman at the running back position. We saw Henry stop on a key fourth down. And honestly, for what it's worth, the Titans never led at any point in this game. You go back to when Henry scored a touchdown in the first half of this contest to make it six apiece. Of course, the Bengals were called for 12 men on the field, and the Titans elected to go for the 2 point conversion from the 1 yard line. They gave it to Henry, and he was stuffed just short of the goal line. That was an omen of things to come in this contest. Credit to the Bengals defense, but also the Titans never made that adjustment. And in regards to Ryan Tannehill, because I know there are going to be people who are going to say, "Hey, this team needs to move on from Ryan Tannehill or go in another direction." But the bottom line is that's not going to happen because over the next 2 seasons, the Titans owe Ryan Tannehill $56 million. So you're not going to sit up there and eat that money. You're stuck with this deal. They gave him a 5 year, $125 million contract a couple of years ago after him and the Titans went on that run in the postseason. But honestly, what Ryan Tannehill can and cannot do is predicated on the Titans' ability to run the football. And Tannehill is at his strength coming off of play action. But if you have a play action to start the game, and you know what, the defense is not biting and you're forcing the ball, well, you know what, that's on Ryan Tannehill and absolutely nobody else. Uh, I said it last year, and I'll say it again. How much longer can Derrick Henry play at this level? Because at some point, the other shoe has to drop. I mean, Henry is a very physical runner. You look at it, he had more than 2,000 yards on the ground last season. He was on that pace to get 2,000 again until the foot injury sidelined him. He's going to be 28 years old. He's 28 years old now, but it's just a wear and tear of the running back position. And at some point, it's going to catch up with him. And at some point, the Titans are going to have to adjust how they do things. They still have a very solid defense. They still have what it takes to win this division because I don't see a scenario where the Texans or Jaguars are going to just spring up right away and become contenders. We don't know what's going to happen with the Colts, but this is still going to be a very winnable division for Tennessee in 2022. They just have to find a way to say, hey, you know what? We need to find the people that are going to help us take it to the next level and win a championship. Ryan Tannehill, unfortunately, is not that guy at quarterback. But like I said, the Titans are simply stuck with him. You look at it right now for the Bengals, they're flying high right now. Just like the title of this podcast, the Bengals are playing with house money. And I'll tell you one thing, they're not going to be intimidated whether they have to go to Arrowhead next Sunday and take on the Chiefs or to Orchard Park and take on the Buffalo Bills. They beat the Chiefs earlier this season. Granted, that was at home. But nonetheless, this is a squad that is not going to be intimidated. You look at the way Joe Burrow plays, he has a lot of moxie. We saw that when he helped LSU win the national championship a couple of years ago, and that is carried over to his NFL career. Jamar Chase at wide receiver is a stud, had 5 big catches today, in spite of the fact that we consistently saw double coverage on him. And with that double coverage, T. Higgins really stepped up his game, and he had 7 important catches for the Bengals as well. And I'm looking at the comments right here from Andy Revs, and crazy to think they could go to the Super Bowl. Listen, I'll tell you like this: Cincinnati is in the AFC Championship game for the third time in franchise history. They've never lost the AFC Championship game. Obviously, both of those contests were at Riverfront Stadium in '81 and '88. Of course, the Freezer Bowl against the San Diego Chargers many moons ago, and then they came back and beat Buffalo. But I'll tell you right now, regardless of where the Bengals are going to be, they're going to have some fans in the stand. It's not going to be the real home field advantage, but nonetheless, they're going to have some people out there supporting them. At the end of the day, Andy Rev says, you know what, no one believed in the Titans, and it was a weird year because I do know that people were picking the Tennessee Titans to go all the way to the Super Bowl. I did say that the road to the AFC was did go through Nashville, and would they be able to be up for the challenge? They were game today, but honestly, being game and winning are two different things in the postseason. And this year, honestly, in the playoffs, AFC side or NFC side, it is truly a crapshoot. As you easily had 10 teams, a good 10 teams, maybe 11 coming into the postseason, that any one of these teams could have got on a run and won the title. Cincinnati is still dancing. Credit to them. And, at this point, it's going to be tough to really go out there and write this team off. I look at it for the Bengals right now. This team believes, because most people outside of Cincy have not believed in this team all season long. But there's something about this team. You go back to week number one, they found a way to win at home versus the Minnesota Vikings, and it's carried on. You know, Earlier in the season when they went to Pittsburgh and beat the Steelers, some people just wanted to write it off. But you know what? This team not only beat the Steelers there, they swept the Steelers, and they also swept the Baltimore Ravens. And I know that the Ravens didn't make the playoffs this year, and a lot of that can be attributed to not having Lamar Jackson. But it's still important for this Bengals organization to go out there and beat both the Ravens and Steelers, and actually sweep both the Ravens and Steelers this year, because they are looked at as the little brothers of this division. And again, the Bengals were the only team in the AFC North who did not make the playoffs last year. And now look at the damage that they are doing this time around. You look at them, they're in this AFC Championship game, while the Titans are left to pick up the pieces, as this organization has still never won a home playoff game, when they've had home field advantage throughout the postseason. We saw it in 2000. The Titans had home field advantage, and they felt like they had everything in place to get back to the Super Bowl for a second consecutive year. They ran into the Baltimore Ravens, and the rest was history. In 2008, we saw CJ2K do his thing for the Titans. They had home field advantage. He got hurt early on in that divisional round loss against the Baltimore Ravens, and the rest was history. Everything was set up for the Bengals, but the bottom line is, when you have questions, pardon me, everything was set up for the Titans rather, but when you have questions at the quarterback position, as far as whether or not your guy can get it done in those key moments, you really have a big time problem on your team. And we saw that today with the Titans. But on the flip side, the Bengals do have a guy that knows how to go out there and get it done in those key moments in Joe Burrow. And that right there is a big reason why the Titans are getting ready to clean out their lockers next week, while the Bengals are beginning to make preparations for the AFC Championship game. What happens next week, only time will tell. But the bottom line is, people need to get accustomed to the fact that the Cincinnati Bengals are in the AFC Championship game, and they're potentially 60 minutes away from SoFi Stadium and Super Bowl number 56. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. Special shout out to Artie Revs. I hope I'm pronouncing the last name properly. Please forgive me if I'm not. And everybody else for tuning in. And like I always say, please feel free to hit that like button, as well as subscribing to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line to be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.